My 44 male, wife 41 female, was recently contacted by her ex-boyfriend / Cowriter 36 male, and I've grown a bit nervous. Hello everyone. First and foremost, let me state that my wife and I are quite open, maybe much too open, about our past and prior lovers and all that. My second wife is her name. My first wife was very devoted to fidelity, and we divorced due to her infidelity. My ex and I had a kid together. My wife has a daughter from a prior marriage as well. We've been married for 5 years, and our tiny mixed family gets along just well. As I previously said, we may be too forthcoming about our previous relationships. Her first spouse had a history of infidelity. He was a musician who slept with the ladies he met during his shows. She came into his emails and discovered that he was associated with 5 other women, one of whom he had gotten pregnant with. Not wanting their kid to grow up in a broken household, she sought guidance from one of her old online pals, whom we'll refer to as Chris. They had been buddies for 7 years, but had never met. They were writing partners. In fact, before they lost touch, they were working on a book together. She tells me that when she sought out for help, he was really polite and had been offering a lot of methods to move beyond infidelity, or what you should talk to an attorney about, in general being a good buddy. They decided to rewrite their novel sometime along the way. They would casually flirt, she said, but since they lived on separate ends of the country, they couldn't act on it. In the midst of all of this, she decided her marriage was over and stopped attempting to mend things, I suppose checking out. She and Chris were attracted to one another, and before the end of the year, he had flown out to see her. She filed for divorce shortly after the affair became physical, and Chris relocated to live with her later that year. To cut a long tale short, her kid, who was only 5 years old at the time, did not like him. He didn't do anything wrong, she claims, but she wasn't coping well after the divorce and didn't want someone to replace her father. My wife informed him they needed to take a break because of this and because he can be a little rude at times. She had only planned for it to be a temporary pause, but he was supposedly so upset that he traveled it far just to be rejected down 2 months and that he cut it off completely. They rejoined months later to attempt to complete their novel. During this time, they started sleeping together again, although it was just for physical reasons. They were almost done with the book when she began seeing me, so they stopped sleeping together. She felt strange having an ex around after she entered into a serious relationship, so she admittedly stopped responding to his emails, which were all book-related, with the same regularity and stopped working on it as much on her end. After a few months of this, he became irritated and blocked her on everything. That leads us to a month ago. He contacts her out of the blue after 4 or 5 years of no communication. He became infected with COVID and almost died as a result. Chris approached her because, allegedly during their time apart, he revised the book without her input, had it published, created and published a sequel, and released his work, which was on the verge of being unfinished if he died. He wanted to make it clear that if anything happened to him, he wanted the rights to this item given over to her since she knows how the narrative would finish and help develop it. Okay, it really sounds lovely, but then they start chatting. He's allegedly working on a comic adaptation, and he's encouraged her to be a part of it. He's finished a lot of the work, and she was really pleased to show me and tell me about all the characters or backstories, and what she feels he went wrong in the design. She also read the first book, and is telling me whose names he altered, which characters were and weren't in it. Version, the narrative variations, and she seemed to be having a great time with it. I knew they wrote together since she mentioned it previously, but I had no clue they had developed a whole world. I can see there was something very significant to her. She seemed to be considering accepting his offer, which concerns me. They've had every time they've worked on anything in the past. There is also some element in their literature. I'm not the jealous kind, and I definitely don't want to want a dream she buried, but I also don't want history to repeat itself. I'll confess that I eavesdropped on their chat, and although he seems to be on the level and is just talking the project, she's asking for details about his personal life. I wouldn't say flirtatiously, but she asked him if he was dating someone right now, and when he said no, he's too busy, and that relationships simply get in the way, she told him he needed to get back out there. That celibacy doesn't reflect well on him. We're quite honest about our previous lives, so I know her ex-husband was bad at it, and once while she was drunk, she remarked of Chris, "Don't let a fantastic persuade you it'll be a great relationship." How do I proceed? I understand that her ex-husband emotionally destroyed her, which is why she cheated, but she did cheat with this guy. I've met him, and he seems to be a nice person, but they have a past, and something bad may happen. I want to contact my wife with my issues, but I don't want to come off as obnoxious or domineering. I want her to have a creative outlet because she shines in a manner I've never seen before when she speaks about this book I've never heard of. It seems that it was something very essential to her that she pushed to be unimportant. I want it for her, but I don't want their encounters to grow further, as they have 3 times already. Story 2. My wife, 36 female, cheated once and I, 36 male, want a divorce, but I don't know whether I truly should leave or not. I'll try to make my article as brief as possible, but I feel the need to be comprehensive, so please read it well before offering suggestions. My wife and I married when we were 22 years old, after graduating college, and we had 2 kids, ages 13 and 12. Throughout our 14-year marriage, 16-year relationship, we have had a wonderful connection, and we both adore one another. To be perfectly honest, I may have ignored her in February and March owing to work and other obligations. During this time, she had a one-night stand with one of her colleagues around a month ago and instantly regretted it. I'm also positive she only slept with him once since I've heard it from others, and seen additional proof that suggests she's speaking the truth. When she informed me about it the following day, I felt like I'd been hit in the belly. That, or someone had physically torn my heart out. I gazed at her in great disbelief at first, but then continued to pound her with every single unutterable abuse. I never imagined myself saying such things to her, and I honestly don't recall half of what I said. She sobbed and apologized many times. Before you ask, her apologies seemed quite genuine to me, and she was clearly regretful for her conduct. That was evident in her eyes and behaviors since then. I informed her a week after her confession that I was going to file for divorce, after this whole quarantine thing is finished. She sobbed but said nothing and went to the restroom. She has pleaded for my forgiveness, but has said that she understands if I'm unable to do so. She also said that she is prepared to go to any length to make our marriage work and repair the damage she has caused. Furthermore, she said that if I decide to go with the divorce, she would renounce any unjust payout she receives from the divorce settlement, since she does not deserve it. Her opinion is that we should divide our fortune properly so that I am not placed in a poor condition as a result of the divorce settlement. This would happen as I'm in a much better situation financially than her. Despite the fact that I am persuaded she is sincere in her guilt and wants to repair our marriage, I feel compelled to proceed with the divorce. My parents and her parents have both spoken to me, and although they both condemn her conduct, they both want us to sort things out. Aside from this idiotic episode, I've never been one to heed to advise, and my life has worked out rather well for me. My wife has been sleeping on the sofa for the past 3-4 weeks, and I don't speak to her much other than to chat about the girls or our future. My communication is nearly non-existent, despite the fact that she has been trying for weeks. I still haven't forgiven her, and I'm having difficulty forgiving her. It's not so much a matter of trust, though it has been seriously harmed, as it is that I can't get over the act of betrayal itself. Even after a few weeks of learning, I am still torn with my feelings and no closer to a solution than I was before. I've been thinking about my next move for about a month and still have no clue what to do. It is evident to me that she is sincerely sorry for her conduct, and this was completely out of character for her. She has subsequently put in a lot more effort into our relationship, despite the fact that she knows it may be for nothing since I haven't repaid that level of effort in the previous several weeks. I simply don't believe I'll be able to get over the act of treachery. And then there's my kids, who will be badly damaged if I go through with the divorce. I have to admit that there are moments when I feel like going through with the divorce simply to stick it to her, even though I know she would be heartbroken if I did. I know it seems harsh and terrible, but it is exactly the kind of rage and contempt I feel against her. She has said that although she is prepared to go to any length to salvage the marriage, she will eventually accept my choice. I honestly don't know what to do since on one side of the problem, I see my wife's wrath, bitterness, and betrayal after 14 years of marriage. On the other side, I see my children, the love we had over the last 16 years, this being utterly out of character, and my wife really regretful while doing everything she can to repair what she's damaged. So I'm using Tinder to figure out something I haven't been able to figure out in weeks.